warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat datang. Alhamdulillah. First of all, I really want to thank just the Malay people, the government, for facilitating this, all the people that worked very hard to do this, Aid and Aisha, and all the people here, they know who they are. I just want to thank all of you for coming. I said last night that we haven't come here to teach you Islam. You have a beautiful Islam. You've had centuries of it, and it's really a testimony, I think, to who you are as a people, that we can come here and feel proud to be Muslims. Sayyid NAQUIB al-ATTAS is somebody that, in some ways, I was introduced to Islam through his work, because I first discovered him in 1977. He had come to England during the Festival of Faith and delivered a series of lectures, and some of those lectures were actually transcribed and published, and that was the first time that I'd read his thought. And over the years, he's arguably the most influential modern scholar on my personal thinking about particularly the crises of Islam, because to deny that we're in a crisis and that we have been in a crisis for some time is to deny reality. And even though we are people of raja, we're people of hope, and our religion is a religion of hope, and la tayasu min rawahillah, don't despair from the grace of God, because the grace is always there, it's always open. The doors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are always open to all of us. But at the same time, we have to be realistic about where we find ourselves in the current situation. And this situation has been brewing for a long time, and it's in some ways come to a head because of the negligence of not only the rulers, but also the scholars themselves. And we have many hadiths that indicate that the real problem in the world are rulers and scholars. And neither of them can be divorced from the blame. And al-hukam wal-ulama. Sayyid NAQUIB al-ATTAS, I think, early on identified the problem, and the reason is because he, like the great scholars amongst our civilization, is a metaphysician. And even though that's a big word, it's an important word, because the metaphysician is the one that looks to first causes. They want to understand the very first cause of something. They want to understand the first cause of the universe. This is the first great metaphysical question. Where did this all come from? But when they look at problems, they always want to identify not the symptoms of the problem, because most people can do that. The metaphysician, like the physician who comes sick to the hospital, the physician, when he looks at the patient, he wants to understand the root cause of the problem, what they call the etiology. Because in that way it can be treated. If you only treat the symptoms, the problem doesn't go away. It just remains. And so we're in a crisis, the root of which is a metaphysical crisis. And this is what Sayyid NAQUIB al-ATTAS identified so many decades ago. And he's written several very important works. And the fact that he is from Malaysia is a great testimony to your culture. He's from the family of the Prophet ﷺ. He's from Al-ATTAS family. And we know from the many families that came here to spread Islam, these people were sincere people that came and they lived amongst the people here. They dressed like the people. They didn't dress as alien. This is one of the things that we forget, the importance of dressing like the culture you come from. In Imam al-Mawardi, in his book, Adab ad-Din wa Dunya, he says that to go against the urf, the custom of a people in dress, is from hamaqa and safa. It's from stupidity and foolishness. And so when they came here, they didn't come as aliens. They came as people that understood something very profound about cultures, that you don't come to impose an alien culture on people. You come to honor their culture and to If you have something good, you come to bring those things that will help purify their culture from whatever vices and taints that culture might have. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that Imam Malik, and Malik is always preferenced in the science of hadith over the other muhaddithin. If you see a book where they say Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Malik, get rid of the book, because it's a sign that the person's not somebody who studied ilm al-hadith. Imam Malik yuqaddam ala ghayrihi min al-muhaddithin. Malik radiyallahu anhu related a hadith, taraktu fikum ma tamassaktum bihima lan tadillu min ba'di. Kitab Allah wa sunnati. I left two things that if you cling to them, you will not go astray. The book of Allah and my sunnah. But Imam al-Tirmidhi and others relate a hadith that says, Kitab Allah wa itrati. The book and my family. And the family has been gifted with great scholars. And this is one of the blessings of the ummah, is that amongst the Prophet's family, certainly not all of them, not even a majority of them, but amongst them are scholars that are given some type of spiritual intuition that they're blessed with, that Allah blesses them with because of this blessing of their lineage. And I really believe Sayyid NAQUIB al-ATTAS is one of those people. He went through many tribulations in his life, but this is the sunnah of Allah in his creation, especially with the people of Allah, is that they will go through tribulations to test their sincerity. It's just the nature of it. One of the most important books in my estimation he wrote, although the Prolegomena to the Metaphysics of Islam is an extremely important book, but his book Islam and Secularism, which I would love to see widely disseminated amongst Muslims, because even though he wrote it several decades ago, the analysis still stands. That we as Muslims cannot succumb to interpreting our civilizations through the lens of Western illness. Western civilization arrived at secularism for a number of reasons that have nothing to do with the historical circumstances of Muslims. Our civilizations never had a problem with suppressing knowledge. We never had a problem with this idea of reason and revelation being in contradistinction. Sayyid NAQUIB al-ATTAS identified the crises, and it was mentioned there about adab, but I want to just read, and I'll conclude with this before we honor him. As to the internal causes of the dilemma in which we find ourselves, the basic problems can, it seems to me, be reduced to a single evident crisis, which I would simply call the loss of adab. I am here referring to the loss of discipline. Adab and discipline are related. The Prophet ﷺ talked about idanatun nafs, that the sagacious person, the intelligent person, is the one who dana nafsahu. He disciplines his soul. The deen is discipline of the soul, and the deen is adab with Allah and with Allah's creation. I am here referring to the loss of discipline, the discipline of the body, the discipline of the mind and soul, the discipline that assures the recognition and acknowledgement of one's proper place in relation to one's self, society, and community. The recognition and acknowledgement of one's proper place in relation to one's physical, intellectual, and spiritual capacities and potentials. The recognition and acknowledgement of the fact that knowledge and being are ordered hierarchically. And this is one of the ideas that is so alien to the modern age. They want to destroy the idea of hierarchy. They want to destroy the idea that Allah has created a world in which there is privilege as a tribulation, there's privation as a tribulation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is hierarchy in civilizations. There are governments and there are governed. There are fathers and mothers and there are children. This is the world that Allah has created. And to remove this in some utopian attempt at creating an egalitarian society. The egalitarianism of Islam is that we are equal before the law. But the Prophet ﷺ said, my ummah will remain good as long as lam yatasawa, as long as they don't all become the same. In other words, as long as there's differences amongst them. And the hadith an-nasu sawasiya, if you look in the great commentators of sawasiya, sawasiya is sawa'un fil khissati wal radila. People are the same in their capacity for vileness and evil. Where they're different is in their capacities for goodness. And this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges them. Since adab refers to recognition and acknowledgement of right and proper place, station, and condition in life, and to self-discipline in positive and willing participation in enacting one's role in accordance with, with that recognition and acknowledgement, its occurrence in one and in society as a whole reflects the conditions of justice. Loss of adab implies loss of justice, because justice is one of the fundamental definitions. وَضْعُ شَيْءٍ فِي مَحَلِّهِ. It is to put things in their proper place, to give what's due to others. The scholar is due honor. The ruler is due a respect. The policeman is due a respect, because they represent something in society that if you remove it, you get anarchy and chaos. And so the loss of justice, and this doesn't mean that it doesn't go both ways. It does go both ways. The ruler, the adab of the ruler is to serve the people, not to make the people his servants. He's there to guard the public wealth, not to take the public wealth. The policeman is there to guard the civil society, not to disrupt the civil society. So it goes both ways, but respect and adab. But this loss of adab implies loss of justice, which in turn betrays confusion in knowledge. In respect of society and community, the confusion in knowledge of Islam and the Islamic worldview creates the condition which enables false leaders to emerge and to thrive, causing the condition of injustice. And this means false leaders in governments, people that are not qualified to rule other people. Raghib Isfahani wrote a beautiful book about the qualifications of a ruler. الذريعة في مكارم الشريعة. And the fundamental qualification is that he first and foremost can rule his own nafs, his own self. Because if you can't control your sexual appetite, if you can't control your greed, if you can't control all of those things that will take you to destruction, then you have no ability to control others. And the scholar is the same. If the scholar is a profligate, then what hope do the people have? If he can't control himself or herself, then what hope do the people have in looking at that person as a guide to help them learn to control themselves? In respect of society and community, the confusion of knowledge of Islam and the Islamic worldview creates the conditions which enable false leaders to emerge and to thrive, causing the conditions of injustice. They perpetuate this condition since it ensures the continued emergence of leaders like them to replace them after they are gone, perpetuating their domination over the affairs of the community. Thus, to put it briefly, in their proper order, our present general dilemma is caused by 1, confusion and error in knowledge, creating the condition for 2, the loss of adab within the community. The condition arising out of 1 and 2 is 3, the rise of leaders who are not qualified for valid leadership of the Muslim community, who do not possess the high moral, intellectual, and spiritual standards required for Islamic leadership, who perpetuate the condition in 1, the confusion and error above, and ensure the continuing condition of the affairs of the community by leaders like them who dominate in all fields. All the above roots of our general dilemma are interdependent and operative in a vicious circle, but the chief cause is confusion and error in knowledge. And in order to break this vicious cycle and remedy this grave problem, we must first come to grips with the problem of the loss of adab, since no true knowledge can be instilled without the precondition of adab in the one who seeks it and to whom it is imparted. This is, to me, I think, sums up so much of what's at the crisis, at the heart. Imam al-Ghazali, that great pillar of our Islamic civilization, whose knowledge spread from where he resided in Iraq and in Central Asia to Malaysia and now California. Imam al-Ghazali, radiallahu anhu, Hujjat al-Islam, the proof of Islam. And one of the great tragedies of our current crises is that Imam al-Ghazali is no longer understood to be the giant of usul that he is. He's now seen as a mystic, somebody who is known for his quote-unquote Sufism. Imam al-Ghazali's last book is perhaps the most important philosophical argument for law ever to be produced in Muslim history, al-Mustasfa. And in the very introduction of that book, he said all of knowledge is predicated on the knowledge of being. In other words, on metaphysical knowledge. This is where knowledge is predicated. We cannot in any way allow these simplistic simpletons who have hijacked our religion with their political naivete, with their naive and simplistic understanding of a book revealed by the Lord of the worlds, the one that created DNA, the one that created the atom, the one that created the solar system and all the galaxies that fill this universe with all of its complexity. We cannot allow this religion to be reduced to some simplistic religion, a religion for simpletons and morons that go and all they can do is destroy. They can no longer build, they can only destroy. Our civilization is the civilization that not only built the Taj Mahal, that not only built the Alhambra Palace or the Mosque of Cordoba, that not only lighted the streets of Andalusia 800 years ago with lamps, that had running water in their homes. It's the civilization that gave us Fakhruddin al-Razi, that gave us Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, that gave us Imam al-Suyuti, that gave us Rabi al-Adawiyya, that gave us so many of these great people. And now what is it known for? Blowing things up. This is what our religion's known for, and this is what has to end. And it will end when people realize what Sayyidina NAQUIB al-ATTAS has been saying for so many years. So we're here to honor him. We've come from many places around the world, all the people assembled here, and we want to honor one of your greatest sons, Sayyidina NAQUIB al-ATTAS. Jazakumullah khairan.
If you could kindly remain on stage.